I know why we never returned to the moon. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Do you want to hear some scary stories? Well, today I have one for you. It is going to be about the moon. For many years, humans have looked up at the moon with fascination. We have explored its surface and even walked on it. But despite all of our technological advancements, we have never returned to the moon. There are many theories as to why this is the case, but in this story, I am going to share with you why we will never return to the moon. They knew that if word got out, the world would panic. Inside the cave, they found evidence of life. Strange symbols and markings were carved into the walls, and there were strange footprints that did not seem to belong to any human. It was as if someone or something was living in the cave. They knew that they had just discovered something that could change the course of human history. Who knows? Maybe some of you would want to leave Earth and go live on the moon. With the advent of the internet, people were able to connect with each other and share their stories. They wanted the truth to come out, so they did something crazy. They launched their own mission to the moon. It was not sanctioned by any government, and it was not funded by any major organization. That's right. Just as the spacecraft was nearing its destination, it was destroyed by a mysterious force. And those who have seen too much are either dead or too afraid to speak out. I hope you enjoyed this scary story about the moon. If you did, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching. The truth is out there, but it will remain hidden forever. Some people believe that the government was behind the attack. After all, they had a lot to lose if the truth about the moon came out. Others believe that it was the aliens on the moon who destroyed the spacecraft. They didn't want humans to find out that they were there. Whatever the truth, the mission was a failure and the search for answers would have to continue. It was funded by private investors who believed in the mission and wanted the truth to be known. The mission was called the Far Out Project, and it was led by a man named Miles Simmons. Simmons was a former astronaut who had been on the Apollo 15 mission to the moon in 1971. He had seen the strange and unexplained while on his mission, and he had kept quiet for decades. But now he was ready to speak out. And as more and more people came forward with their own tales of strange occurrences on the moon, it became clear that the astronauts were not alone. The plan was to launch a spacecraft to the moon that would be equipped with cameras and other instruments to capture any strange activity that occurred. The spacecraft would also be equipped with a probe that would allow scientists to analyze the composition of the lunar surface and look for signs of life. It was an exciting mission, and it captured the attention of the world. As the spacecraft approached the moon, people waited with bated breath to see what would happen. Would it find evidence of alien life? Would it capture strange and unexplained phenomena on camera? The world was watching. There were countless others who had seen and experienced the same things they had. That's why the government wanted to keep it a secret. They didn't want people to know that there was an alternative to Earth. They wanted everyone to stay right here on our planet, but they also knew that they had to keep it a secret. If the world knew that there was life on the moon, it would cause mass hysteria. But as the sightings continued, they were forced to come forward and share their story. The world listened in disbelief as these brave astronauts told of their terrifying experiences on the lunar surface. Some people believed them, but others thought they were crazy. How could there be life on the moon? It seemed impossible. The year was 1969, and humanity had just landed a man on the moon for the very first time. Neil Armstrong, the commander of the Apollo 11 mission, had just stepped off the lunar module and planted the American flag in the dust of an alien world. Then they returned to Earth and tried to put their experience behind them, but it was too late. The truth was out there, and it would never be contained. Rumors began to spread of a government conspiracy to hide the truth about the moon. People began to question everything they had been told. And the astronauts became famous overnight. They were interviewed by everyone from talk show hosts to news anchors. They were paraded around like circus animals, and their every move was scrutinized by the media. Over the next 5 years, NASA launched 6 more Apollo missions, all of which successfully landed astronauts on the lunar surface. It was not easy. They faced ridicule, doubt, and even threats, but in the end, they knew that the truth would prevail. Now, you may be wondering why the government would want to hide such a discovery. Why would they want to keep the existence of alien life on the moon a secret? Well, the answer is simple. They didn't want the world to panic. They thought that if people knew that there were aliens living on the moon, they would lose their minds. There would be riots in the streets, banks would be robbed, planes would be hijacked. The entire world could descend into chaos. But after that, the program was canceled and we have not been back since. At first, it seemed like a logical move. The Cold War was over, and there was no longer a pressing need to race against the Soviet Union to claim victory in the space race. But there was more to the story than that. There was a dark secret that NASA was hiding from the world. A secret that would explain why we have never returned to the moon. He had become the first human being to set foot on another celestial body, and he did so with these famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." For a moment, it seemed as though anything was possible. The moon was no longer a distant, unreachable dream. It was ours for the taking. We had entered a new era of space exploration and discovery. But then something strange happened. We stopped going to the moon. For many years, this secret remained buried. But now I'm going to tell you what it is. When Neil Armstrong first set foot on the lunar surface, he made a disturbing discovery. Something was watching him. At first, he dismissed it as a trick of the light or a figment of his imagination. But as the days passed, the sightings became more frequent and more disturbing. Armstrong and his fellow astronauts began to see strange shadows moving across the lunar surface. They saw strange lights in the distance that could not be explained by science. And they heard strange noises that seemed to be coming from the moon itself. At first, they tried to keep it a secret. But then something incredible happened. One day, while exploring the lunar surface, Armstrong and his crew stumbled upon a cave. So they did everything they could to cover up their discovery. They sealed the cave and left it undisturbed. But they never wavered in their story. They knew what they had seen, and they were not afraid to speak out about it. And let's be honest, how many people do you think would want to stay on Earth if there was life out there on the moon? As the years passed, the astronauts grew old and the world moved on, but the truth never faded. In fact, it only grew stronger. And then something amazing happened. In the year 2019, a group of brave individuals decided that enough was enough. The Far Out project was a bold and ambitious undertaking. Unfortunately, before the mission could reach the moon, it was destroyed. But one thing is certain, we will never know the truth about the moon. The government will never tell us. And that is why we will never return to the moon.